Omar Samad is a former Afghan diplomat and non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, and he joins me now live. Thank you so much for being with us on the program today. Now, looking at the way the U.S. pulled out, it's been described as a disaster, and they really left the Afghan people out to dry. Why do you think Joe Biden made the move to abruptly leave the country to the extent where his NATO allies were caught off guard from the decision? Because from what we know, they weren't briefed beforehand.
I don't think it was abrupt. It took the Americans 3.5 years to negotiate with the Taliban. They spent almost 2 years until they signed an agreement in February 2020, agreeing on a timetable for American withdrawal under Mr. Trump. And then when Mr. Biden took over, he reviewed the file and he decided that he was going to go ahead, but he changed the timetable to some extent. That obviously was going to be a withdrawal that was supposed to be orderly. Unfortunately, it was not very orderly because the then president of Afghanistan, Ashraf Ghani, and I have to say not Hamid Karzai, as your report said earlier, Ashraf Ghani and his team at the palace fled the country, leaving the Afghan forces and basically a government without a head. And the Taliban were at the gates of Kabul. And the Americans were asked if they wanted to secure Kabul, and they said, no, we are on our way out. We just want to evacuate for the next few weeks. And then the Taliban entered Kabul. So unfortunately, a lot has happened over the last 20 years, and we can even go back 44 years. But over the last 20 years, a lot has happened to bring us to this situation. And now, a year after the Taliban are in control of Afghanistan.
So looking back 20 years ago, what difference do you see between the Taliban 20 years ago and the Taliban today? And how much has the Taliban currently being in power kind of brought the country back to the old way of things taking place in the country?
It's a very good question. Taliban version 1 from 1995 to 2001 versus Taliban version 2 as of last year, but obviously have been fighting for the past 15 years or so, have similarities and they have differences. It's something that is still being analyzed and unfolding as we try to figure out exactly to what extent they have changed, in what ways, in what areas, and how they haven't changed. So one of the issues that we all have a concern about has to do with the way they're looking at schooling for secondary high school girls. The same way that we are wondering to what extent they will still be tolerant of some level of freedom of the press and media. To some extent, are they going to reach out to other Afghan political groups in order to form a government that is more representative of Afghanistan? All of these questions are outstanding. There are signs that maybe there is some hope, but there are signs that the Taliban are becoming more stringent over time. So there is one reality. There are differences of opinion within the Taliban, which was expected. There are those who are more pragmatic and would like to see more reforms, and there are those who are more hardline and they would like to go back to the 1990s.
All right, Omar Samad, thank you so much for joining us here on the NewsHour. It was a pleasure speaking to you.